Hi everyone, how's it going? Listen, this is going to be a short video, but I had to get this out of my head because okay, stay with me because you know how my mind just goes into like a multitude of different directions. So just stay with me here, okay? That's the seed that has basically been planted for me to have these thoughts going in a certain direction. The seed that was planted was a video that I saw about the dating world. Now, again, this is about to go into lots of different directions, to stay with me. There was this theory that the reason why dating was hard for men was a completely different reason from why dating was hard for women. It's because where a lot of men are concerned, the regular complaints that lowest common denominator content for men continually espouses is that women are chasing after the top 10% of men, right? So that's the line that is always espoused by men, that women are chasing the top 10% of men. But my thing is this, like, what type of women are you trying to attract in the first place? So yeah, anyway, that aside, so men complain that it's hard to date a woman because women want the top 10% of men. Whereas the complaints of women seem to be that the bar is literally in hell. Their standards are so low, and it's difficult for them to find a man who invests even half the effort that a woman does when it comes to day-to-day life, right? So the complaints about lowest common denominator men and lowest common denominator women, two completely different things. With men, it's like the bar is too high, and then for women, the bar is too low. And it's becoming a thing where a lot of women seem to be really, really happy without guys. Now, we've been taught for the longest time to desire marriage because that is, we're seen as, if we're beautiful and marriageable, then it affirms to us our worth as women. So we're taught to seek after that in order to be powerful in this world. And it works. I'm not saying it doesn't. But this is the thing, right? Because women are realizing and have been realizing that we don't actually need men like that, like for anything more than companionship. Even with reproduction, we don't even need men in the room, really. Now women are starting to understand how much more money they have without men, how much better they are at managing money, how much better they are than men at actually navigating the world and working and doing all these things by themselves. And remember, we have less to work with because we're taxed more simply for being women, right? So because the expense is so high and because, there's so little in return for all that is asked of us, we've learned to become resourceful to the point where we can make it on our own, no problem. When you live in a world that is constantly catered to you, the second that it doesn't cater to you, you tend to struggle just that little bit more. And I feel like that's the case between men and women. Now, that can be applied to any group that is marginalized versus any group that is privileged. I'm simplifying it, but that's what it boils down to. So because women are finding it easier to manage without men, even as mothers, what's happening is that reproductive rights are rolling back. So that seeing as women don't actually want to be with men when they really think about it, when rights are rolled back, then women end up with a legal obligation to be with men. And it's the same with all marginalized groups. We've seen marginalized group after marginalized group thrive in spite of all the restrictions that have been put in front of us by a white patriarchal supremacy. There have been black people becoming presidents, black billionaires, like, you know, there was a new class of black, a new black middle class that have been emerging, in spite of all the odds that were stacked against us. In America, at least, the highest population of educated people were actually black women. The most skilled and the most educated were black women in America. So it's like the marginalized are starting to understand we don't actually need the privilege as much as we thought we did. When that need is taken away, we thrive. And we thrive precisely because, I can't believe I'm saying this. We thrive because we have been forced into situations where we have had to be resourceful at every opportunity. Whereas people who have had the world catered to them, they tend to struggle a bit more. With actually maintaining. Now, this isn't just about race. This is also about economic class as well. I've noticed the same with poorer people, not just among black folk, but also brown folk and white folk. Poorer people tend to be more resilient, more resourceful, and better educated than people who are privileged than them. And I know it sounds like an oxymoron to say that, but they have more of an understanding of the world. They have a more understanding of the realities of what the world is like. So they are adapting their existence around actual reality and not what they want it to be 9 times out of 10. So marginalized groups, they have this resourcefulness, this resilience that really kind of lets them know, well, we actually don't need these people at the top. What do we need them for? So when that happens, this is when we get the rolling back of laws and legislation protecting civil rights, protecting reproductive rights, protecting the rights of people of different sexualities. And we also, most of all, this is most important, we get these cost of living crises, we get austerity, we get cutbacks. It's always when people of marginalized communities start feeling themselves that there is this drive towards creating a socio-economic reason to keep relying on the same people that were stealing from us and lying to us and killing us. So every time we get a little bit of self-sufficiency, and another thing, this is happening with employees as well versus employers. Employees are not taking any more shit. So we've got groups of marginalized people becoming self-sufficient, understanding their worth, branching out on their own, actually surviving in the midst of really dire economic circumstances by themselves. So people in power and privilege are thinking, okay, this has got to stop. So the place that they hit us hardest is our wallets, knowing that we already have disadvantages as poorer people, as black folk, as brown folk, as poor white folk, as gay people, as trans people, as queer of any distinction. They know that we already have a disadvantage. So when they take away, certain privileges financially, the hope is that we'll have a legal obligation to be subservient to the same people that are abusing us. We will have an economic obligation to be in service to people who are abusing us. We will have even a social obligation to be kinder to the people that are abusing us. That is what I've noticed. That's the reset that I'm talking about. Now, I've been talking about a reset for years. The reset that I'm talking about essentially boils down to this. When there is an awakening of people that have usually been oppressed and kept down, when these people start to become self-sufficient and successful, when they are represented better, when they start making moves in the world, that's when we start to see laws roll back. That's when we start to see a more of a leaning towards populist ideologies rather than understanding the nuance of politics. That's when we start to see it all. Every single time marginalized communities start feeling themselves, here comes the thunder. Even with these latest revelations that are coming out about all the scum in Hollywood, all the scum and filth in Hollywood, who are the first predators, or who are the most prominent predators that we are talking about? Black people and Jewish people. Who are the most, not hated, but who are the most maligned people in America, arguably? Black people and Jewish people. I don't care how powerful some of these Jewish companies are. Jewish people are still an oppressed class, and I know it doesn't seem like it, but what I found is that the closer other people of color are to black folk is the more anti-black they are. It's designed that way. Because the truth of the matter is, the more anti-black those groups are, the more useful they are to white supremacy. So the reason why these current crops of, I don't know, these current crops of powerful people are as powerful as they are is because they've played this anti-blackness to the hilt. And I know what you're going to say. There are certain groups who don't like white people. Okay, fine. I understand that. But there is a chess game being played here when it comes to different groups and when it comes to different groups of people. And again, when it comes to the scum and filth in society, there are plenty of white predators out there. Plenty. That are even worse than the P. Diddy's and the Jay-Z's and the fucking, Harvey, whatever the fuck his name is. There are people way even worse than that belonging to white supremacy, because this thing operates in a hierarchy. And yet the white supremacists are barely being mentioned. It's only black folk, brown folk, and Jewish folk that are in the mix. Think about why that is. Think about why that is. You mean to tell me you couldn't find some black and Jewish people who are decent-hearted people? There are plenty of us out there. You mean to tell me you couldn't allow some good, some decent people who just happen to be black, or decent people who just happen to be Jewish, you couldn't let them be successful? You specifically had to choose the misogynist, anti-black, fucking demonic ones that you could find. You had to pick them. Why? All of this is for a purpose. All of this is for a purpose. It's to gatekeep. It's to gatekeep the wealth that white supremacy is hoarding. That's why we're seeing all this shit come out. Like I said, I said years ago when I was really, really sick, I said that at some point the Pied Piper would come to collect. Now, I only half knew what the fuck I was talking about because I wasn't well. And I wasn't well due to the stress of being targeted all the time. But now I'm starting to understand. This swamp that is being drained is just making way for more toxic sludge, even more toxic than the sludge that is being cleared out. That's all it's doing. It's just making way for a new kind of dirt to settle in. The kind of dirt that is truly toxic. And as for the Donald Trumps and the Alex Joneses of the world, I get that Donald Trump is genuinely racist and Alex Jones is on some other shit. I get the points that they've espoused. I get that their rhetoric is dangerous. But this is the thing, right? People like that, they talk about being conservative. Like they talk all this conservative shit. They say the most racist, vile shit. Well, Donald Trump anyway, not so much Alex Jones. They say the most racist and vile shit while still continuing to hang around people of lots of different races. When the next crop of fascists come through, the shit ain't gonna be like that. The shit is not going to be like that. It is not going to be that they'll just talk the talk and not walk the walk. The next motherfuckers coming up that have sacrificed this current crop of populist leaders, they're going to walk their talk. They ain't going to fucking talk about the racism. They're going to do it. They're not going to talk about the sexism. They're going to act on the sexism. They're not going to talk about the queer phobia. They're going to act on it. Ain't nothing to talk about. All these mouthy ass people talking a bunch of shit, talking a bunch of xenophobic, bigoted shit, all they are is sacrificial pawns for the real fascists that are going to come in and implement changes that are genuinely going to hurt everyone, not just marginalized people, although marginalized people will get it first and they will get it the most brutal. All these mouthpieces are doing are making way for the real deal to come through. And that's all the fuck that's happening. Like I said before, marginalized groups, we've been waking up to how much we have to bring to the table, how high our standards are. Even the messiest. This is what I've realized in my life. As sloppy as I can be, as messy as I can be, as disorganized and scattered and stuff as I can be, I realize that somebody in my position can still be a lot more organized than somebody else more privileged in my exact same position. That's what I've realized. And a lot of people are waking up to that fact because we've been forced to be that person just to have half of what these people have. So, we're already built for hard times. And if you're built for hard times, you're harder to control. You being built for hard times, plus you understanding exactly how you're being manipulated, it equals you being especially difficult to control. That's why all these socioeconomic problems are happening. All of it is planned. All this economic shit is planned. All of it is planned to keep people in their place. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? All of it is planned. Because the second that you start recognizing your worth, that's when they create real physical incentives for you to keep being their bitch. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Number 11 from The Laws of Power. Robert Greene wrote that book, The Laws of Power, number 11. The most successfully independent people, really think about this. The most successfully independent people are the ones that know how to keep everybody else dependent on them. Now, I'm not just talking to all other marginalized groups. I'm talking to TIs as well. The fact of the matter is that you are far more needed, far more than you will ever be told. You are far more needed than you know. Without you, there is no them. I don't care if you're subjugated or not. Without you, there is no them. This world and the way this world is set up needs you a hell of a lot more than you need it. And you're finding this out. That's why the laws are changing. These people, the powers that be, are the powers that be. Because they use our animal desires for safety and comfort to control us. That's how they remain independent. And thus, that's how they remain powerful. They keep the rest of us dependent on them. So whilst they're out here dehumanizing us according to our color, our gender, our social class, our education level, our sexuality, whilst they're over here dehumanizing us for not fitting up to the standard, right? They want us to keep taking the abuse and keep coming back to them for our basic material needs. Why? Because without us being dependent on them, they have no purpose. And TIs, I'm going to talk to you especially because you will know this better than anybody. In order for you, because you are in the position where you are needed far more than the people who have done this to you. And the people who have done this to you, they isolate you for a reason. They have you financially abused for a reason. They have you psychologically and electronically abused for a reason. It's so that they can keep you reliant on the same system that's killing you. But Something's happening where there are a lot of TIs who, in spite of your torture and in spite of your pain, you are another group of people that's starting to wake up. If you haven't already, there are so many of you who are self-sufficient, who have found a way through your pain to come out the other side anyway. And that's why the targeting has become more desperate, because now TIs are starting to wake up too. They're starting to wake up too. If, I mean, as a TI, you already knew that as a TI, you never needed the perps. All they did was hold you back, and that was on purpose. And, you cognitively knew it, but then there are other TIs who are starting to emotionally realize it, and emotionally realizing it is starting to lead to certain actions that are helping them push through the world in spite of what they're going through. So it's only a matter of time before the perps do something desperate, if they haven't already, because that's what the so-called privileged do. That's what the powers that be do. That's why everything that you do, they can't mind their business. That's why they're always spying on you. That's why they're always trying to figure you out, because they fucking need you. They fucking need you. Some of them even want you, need you, want you, to the point where desperation is a kind word for it. So they want to keep you on the hook. And if they can't keep you on the hook emotionally, they want to do it physically and materially. Mark my words. That's exactly what's happening. And it's going to keep going on. This trend is going to continue for quite a while yet. It's not finished yet. It's not finished yet. We're just on the outskirts of the age of decline in this current Rome that we're living in. We're just like on the outskirts of the age of decline here. You will see what I'm talking about. So be on your guard. Be on your guard, because when you are needed as desperately as this, the people who are abusing you, the people who need you subjugated, they're never going to leave you alone. That's the reality of the situation. This is the world that operates on dark triad principles. You got the psychopaths at the top. You got the sociopaths somewhere near the middle, and near the bottom, you got the narcissists who never quit. The narcissists are the foot soldiers. No, the narcissists, if we're talking about hierarchies, narcissists are the infantry. The sociopaths are, I don't know, they're kind of the mid-level, and then at the top you've got the psychopaths. That's why you've got perps that don't quit. Narcissism, especially in combination with BPD, that's the foot soldier of this whole thing. They will never quit as long as they need you, and they do need you in ways you do not understand. This will continue. This will continue. Another thing is that a lot of marginalized communities are imitated as well. Not in obvious ways, but we're always imitated. There's another reason for that. It's because in order to destroy your enemy, you have to become your enemy. And I'm going to let TIs know that when it comes to people trying to infiltrate you, be aware of people that imitate you a little bit too well. Be very wary of that. I'm not talking about the really obvious ones that just say the right things, because they're paid to, and they can't charm worth a shit. I'm talking, watch out for the people who mimic you just a little bit too well. Now, watch out for the ones who you know they're lying, but they do it so beautifully that you consciously choose to forget. Watch out for those ones. Because it's when you know your enemy, that's when you destroy them. Why do you think that as marginalized people, these people who seemingly have power over us, our abusers, why do you think they don't want us to know what's going on? I mean, I'm just saying. And shout out to Palestine too, because, boy, we all know about the UN and Operation Crimson Mist. That's all I'm going to say on that one, baby. From time the UN gets involved, it's going to get a whole lot worse. Nah, that's it. I gotta go. So if you made it to the end of this video, my fellow TIs, let me know how you guys are. I really want to know how you're doing. And as always, I love you. Peace and blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.